Forgotten Wars, Part 1. The story's history tried to bury. These wars changed nations, but textbooks wiped them clean. Wars where empires fell, and truth got rewritten. Conflicts that embarrassed the powerful, so they vanished from memory. These weren't small battles. They reshaped borders, cultures, and lives. But instead of being remembered, they were buried. Buried because the truth didn't serve the story. Colonial failures, political mistakes, hidden tragedies, the kind of history they don't teach in school. Because remembering these wars means confronting uncomfortable truth. In this chapter, we explore 15 forgotten wars, and the other 15 continue in Part 2. Stories erased by pride, power, and silence. Not lost, intentionally removed. Who erased them, and why, and what happens when the truth finally resurfaces. These aren't war stories, they're memory battles, and tonight, we bring them back. This is Part 1, 15 Wars History Erased from the Spotlight. And trust me, what you're about to hear changes everything. This isn't just about battles, it's about power and memory. History doesn't forget by accident. Somebody chooses what survives. The stories that make nations proud get spotlighted, and the stories that expose mistakes, yeah, those get buried. These wars challenged empire ego and control. They shaped lives, borders, whole generations, but never made the textbooks, because remembering them means facing the truth head on. This series isn't just storytelling, it's reclamation. We're pulling these wars back into the light, one by one, because real history isn't always clean, and it sure ain't comfortable. These aren't forgotten stories. They were silenced, and now we bring them back. In this part, we dive into 15 erased wars, and the other 15 continue in Part 2. Yeah, we're going deep. If you're rockin' with this journey, show some love to the channel. Hit like, subscribe, and run with us as we uncover the rest. Drop the war name you want to see next. I'll make a full deep dive video on it. This is history, unfiltered, uncomfortable, and finally remembered. War number 15, the First Italo-Ethiopian War. A war Europe never wanted remembered. In 1895, Italy invaded Ethiopia, confident they'd claim another colony. But Ethiopia wasn't weak. It was a united empire, ready to fight back. The decisive moment, the Battle of Adwa, one of history's most unexpected turnarounds. Nearly 17,000 Italian soldiers marched in against 70,000 to 100,000 Ethiopian fighters standing their ground. In hours, the invasion collapsed. Over 6,000 Italian soldiers were killed. More than 2,000 were captured, and 1,500 were wounded. Ethiopia paid a price, too. Around 4,000 to 5,000 casualties. But the outcome shook the world. An African empire defeated a modern European army. Back in Italy, political crisis, humiliation, disbelief. The myth of European invincibility shattered, and that's exactly why this war was buried. It wasn't just a battle, it was a message that empire could be defeated. And for that reason, history tried to erase it. But not here, not today. War number 14, the Chaco War. A desert conflict built on lies. Two nations fought over a barren desert they believed was full of oil. Bolivia and Paraguay, each convinced the Chaco region was the key to power. Rumors spread, fueled by foreign corporations and misinformation. But the real enemy wasn't the other army. It was the desert. Temperatures above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Men died of thirst before bullets reached them. More than 100,000 soldiers were killed or wounded across both sides. Bolivia suffered around 60,000 casualties. Many never even saw the enemy. Paraguay lost nearly 30,000 men, but refused to surrender. Countless deaths, not from combat, but from starvation, heat, and disease. Against the odds, Paraguay gained the upper hand. Bolivia's army collapsed, broken by distance, drought, and chaos. The war ended, and the truth finally came out. There was no oil. Hundreds of thousands fought and died for nothing. A war born from rumor, greed, and illusion, and because it exposed manipulation, history tried to forget it. But today, the story stands in the light, so those lives are never erased. War number 13, the Winter War, when a tiny nation stood against a giant. In 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland, expecting a quick victory. But Finland fought back with grit, strategy, and brutal winter terrain. The war unfolded in sub-zero temperatures, where frostbite killed as fast as bullets. Soviet forces, over 1 million troops. Finland, barely 300,000 defenders, outgunned, outnumbered, underestimated. But the snow became Finland's greatest weapon. The Soviets suffered roughly 126,000 killed and over 260,000 wounded. Entire tank divisions froze, stalled, and shattered. Finland lost around 25,000 soldiers, every life a sacrifice for survival. Small Finnish units destroyed massive Soviet columns. Hit and fade tactics. Moscow realized this easy war had become a disaster. A ceasefire followed. Finland lost land, but kept its independence. A small nation stopped a superpower in its tracks. And that's why this war is rarely given the respect it deserves. It wasn't just survival, it was defiance. And in the coldest winter, Finland proved heart can outrun power. This is one war they couldn't erase, no matter how hard they tried. War number 12, the Paraguayan War. When a nation chose defiance over submission, Paraguay stood alone against three powerful neighbors. They believed resistance meant dignity, even if the price was everything. But the Triple Alliance brought numbers, industry, and relentless force. The alliance fielded over 150,000 troops at a time. Paraguay fought with far fewer men and almost no reserves. The war turned into a slow national collapse. Paraguay lost over half its entire population. Some estimates say up to 90% of Paraguayan adult men were killed. War didn't just take soldiers. It erased a generation. Cities fell, villages emptied, the nation faded to survival mode. Paraguay fought until the very last. Even child soldiers entered the lines. When it ended, Paraguay was broken. Land lost, future uncertain. A nation survived, but barely, and because the truth was uncomfortable, history looked away. It wasn't just war, it was sacrifice on a national scale. And even shattered, Paraguay refused to disappear. This is a war the world tried to forget, but the scars still speak. War number 11, the Anglo-Zulu War, when traditional warriors stunned an industrial empire. In 1879, the British Empire invaded the Zulu kingdom. Confident victory was guaranteed. But the Zulu army wasn't primitive. It was disciplined, organized, and fearless. The clash came at Isandlwana, one of the most shocking defeats in British military history. Over 1,100 British and colonial troops held the position, against 20,000 Zulu warriors moving with precision and speed. In hours, the British lines shattered. Nearly 1,300 British soldiers were killed, wiped out almost to the last man. The Zulus suffered around 1,000 casualties, but claimed a historic victory. Back in London, disbelief turned into humiliation. The Empire struck back with guns, cannons, and overwhelming firepower. Future battles turned brutal. The Zulu kingdom was eventually defeated, but their courage became legend. At Isandlwana, tradition outmatched technology, and that truth made empires uncomfortable. It wasn't just a battle. It was a reminder that strength isn't always industrial. And for one day, the empire learned humility. A victory carved in courage, and a story history rarely tells. War number 10, the War of the Pacific. The Desert War that rewrote a continent. This wasn't fought for farmland. It was fought for minerals, saltpeter, the white gold of the 1800s, fuel for explosives and global industry. Chile faced Peru and Bolivia, and the desert became a battlefield. Hundreds of thousands mobilized across 5 brutal years. The war stretched from the ocean to the mountains to the desert sands. More than 20,000 to 30,000 soldiers were killed, many in unforgiving terrain. Chile seized key ports, supply lines, and the nitrate heartland. The Allies weakened, cities fell, armies fractured, and Bolivia was cut off from the sea forever. When the treaties were signed, the map of South America changed. Bolivia lost its coastline and became landlocked. Chile gained the desert and the wealth that came with it. Thousands died, not for land to live on, but for resources to exploit. And the desert kept the truth quiet for generations. This wasn't just a war. It was an economic reckoning, and one nation paid the price with the ocean itself. A desert victory, a permanent loss, and a story history rarely explains. War number 9, the War of the Golden Stool. When a symbol became stronger than an empire. To the Ashanti people, the Golden Stool wasn't a throne. It was the soul of the nation. When British officials tried to claim it, they weren't asking for an object. They were asking for identity. And the answer was resistance. British forces marched in, thousands strong, armed and industrialized. The Ashanti fought with fewer men, but with unity and purpose. The fighting turned fierce, a cultural stand against domination. Hundreds were killed on both sides, many more wounded. The empire won territory, but they never laid hands on the stool. The people protected it at all costs. In the end, the Golden Stool remained untouched, because some things can't be conquered. This wasn't a war for land. It was a war for culture, spirit, identity. A symbol survived, and a people refused to bow. If you're vibing with this history, hit like and subscribe to back the channel. Drop a comment with the next war you want. I'll make a full deep dive on it, because some battles aren't fought for power. They're fought for meaning. War number 8, the Mahdist War. The uprising that stunned the British Empire. In the late 1800s, Sudan rose up against foreign rule and corruption. A religious leader claimed destiny and united tribes under one banner. The revolt spread fast, faster than the empire ever expected. Tens of thousands joined the Mahdist army, warriors with faith and determination. Imperial forces struggled, outnumbered in heat, distance, and terrain. Across the conflict, over 100,000 lives were lost on all sides. At Khartoum, British-led defenses collapsed after months of resistance. The fall of the city shocked London. Pride shattered worldwide. For a moment, Sudan stood independent. Years later, the empire returned. Stronger, industrial, relentless. The Mahdist army charged. Courage met machine guns. Tens of thousands fell in a single campaign. On paper, the empire won. But the rebellion revealed something deeper. That power isn't always control, and even empires stand on fragile ground. A revolt written in sacrifice, and a story history rarely speaks aloud. War number 7, the Aceh War. Decades of resistance against empire. In the 1800s, the Dutch Empire moved to control Aceh, a powerful Islamic kingdom in Sumatra. But the people of Aceh refused to surrender their land or their faith. What began as an invasion turned into a 30-year war. Dutch forces deployed tens of thousands of soldiers across the jungle. Aceh answered with hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and local unity. Across the war, over 70,000 people were killed. Many were civilians. The Dutch responded with scorched earth campaigns, crushing resistance town by town. Leaders like Teuku Umar turned defiance into a movement. Even after he was killed, the fight continued. Modern weapons, new tactics, relentless pressure. The cost fell hardest on the people. Villages emptied, lives broken. By the early 1900s, the empire claimed victory, but resistance never truly ended, because identity doesn't surrender. This wasn't just a colonial war, it was survival. And through decades of hardship, the spirit of Aceh endured. A story of courage under empire, and a chapter history rarely speaks aloud. War number 6, the 10 tragic days, when ambition and betrayal turned a capital city into a battlefield. In 1913, politics exploded into violence in the heart of Mexico City. Rival generals launched a coup, fighting for power, not for the people. For 10 days, the capital became a war zone. Shells hit homes, churches, marketplaces. Over 5,000 civilians and soldiers were killed in the streets. A revolution meant for change turned into chaos. President Francisco Madero was betrayed, arrested by the very forces sworn to protect him. Days later, he was assassinated. The coup succeeded, but the nation fractured even deeper. Neighborhoods were destroyed, families displaced. War didn't come from outside. It came from inside the government. And when the guns stopped, nothing felt like victory. The city survived, but trust in leadership didn't. And this tragedy was quietly minimized in textbooks. It wasn't just a coup. It was a warning written in blood. And for 10 tragic days, a nation watched its capital burn. A chapter scarred into history, and one the world rarely speaks about. War number 5, the First Balkan War. When collapsing empires reshaped a continent, the Ottoman Empire was fading, and its neighbors moved in to claim what remained. They formed a coalition, the Balkan League, and marched to push the empire out. In months, the region turned into one massive battlefield. More than 1.2 million soldiers were thrown into the fight. Battles spread across cities, mountains, borders. Over 140,000 lives were lost, soldiers and civilians alike. The Balkan League crushed Ottoman defenses. Territory collapsed fast. Fortresses fell. Borders rewrote themselves overnight. When the dust settled, the empire lost most of its European land. But victory didn't bring unity. It brought rivalry. The winners now turned on each other, suspicion growing in every border. And the world didn't realize what was coming next. This war didn't end conflict. It lit the fuse that would lead to World War I. It wasn't just a regional war. It was a warning the world ignored. And in those shifting borders, history changed direction. A conflict rarely taught, but one that quietly opened the door to a global war. How did wars like these disappear from textbooks? Because history isn't just written, it's edited. Chapters that embarrass the powerful quietly vanish. Failures, defeats, brutal truths sealed away, not because they weren't important, but because they were inconvenient. These wars changed borders, rewrote destinies, reshaped people's lives. Yet the people who lived them rarely made the story, because memory can be controlled, just like power. And when a story threatens the image of an empire, the story disappears, not forgotten by time, but removed on purpose. The truth didn't disappear. Someone made sure it stayed hidden. And now, we bring those stories back into the light, one war at a time. War number 4, the French Dahomey War. When a West African kingdom refused to bow, the kingdom of Dahomey stood proud, independent, organized, and unbroken. When the French Empire arrived, they expected an easy conquest, but standing in their way was one of the fiercest armies in Africa. Thousands of Dahomey fighters, men and women, marched into battle. The French answered with cannons, rifles, and industrial firepower. Across the conflict, over 10,000 lives were lost on both sides. The warrior women fought fearlessly, disciplined, relentless, unwavering. But technology crushed courage. Firepower tipped the war. In the end, Dahomey fell under colonial rule. Yet their resistance became legend. Warriors remembered not for defeat, but for courage. This wasn't just a colonial war. It was identity refusing to surrender. And history still echoes with the strength of those who stood and fought. If you're feeling this story, hit like and subscribe to back the channel. Drop the next war you want to see. I'll make a full deep dive video on it. A kingdom resisted, a legacy survived, and this story lives on. War number 3, the Greek-Turkish War. A short conflict with a long shadow. In 1897, rising nationalism pushed Greece and the Ottoman Empire into war. Greece fought with passion and pride, but little preparation. The Ottomans moved fast, organized, experienced, and ready. Tens of thousands clashed across Thessaly and Epirus. In weeks, Greek forces collapsed under pressure. Over 2,000 soldiers were killed, thousands more wounded or captured. The army withdrew, morale shattered, pride shaken. Great powers stepped in, forcing peace before the war spiraled further. Greece paid heavy war reparations. Humiliation burned deep. The defeat ignited anger and fueled a surge of nationalism. The nation rebuilt its army, stronger, more determined than before. And that tension wouldn't stay quiet for long. This wasn't just a loss. It was a spark in a region already ready to explode. A short war, but a wound that reshaped identity, and its echoes carried forward into the storms that followed. A conflict rarely discussed, but one that changed the path of a region. War number 2, the Banana Wars. When corporations and military power merged across the Caribbean and Central America, profit drove conflict. American troops intervened in Nicaragua, Haiti, Honduras, Cuba, Panama, and more. This wasn't just about politics. It was about business. For decades, thousands of soldiers were stationed across foreign nations. Local uprisings were crushed. Strikes met with force. Tens of thousands were killed or displaced. Civilians caught in the middle. Some countries were invaded over and over again. Governments fell, replaced by leaders friendly to foreign corporations. Resources flowed out, while poverty stayed behind. Villages changed forever. Economies bent to outside power. And resentment grew, shaping politics for generations. But history rarely called it what it was: a battlefield built on profit, and nations paid the price. This wasn't just intervention. It was economic warfare, and its consequences still echo today. A chapter many textbooks skip, but one history can't erase. War number 1, the War of Jenkins' Ear. A conflict sparked by pride, trade, and ego. A British captain, Robert Jenkins, claimed Spanish guards cut off his ear at sea. He carried the ear to London, proof of insult and humiliation. The story became fuel, and the empire demanded revenge. Soon, tens of thousands of troops and sailors were mobilized. Britain targeted Spain's colonies, chasing control of trade routes. Across the war, over 20,000 soldiers and sailors died, many from disease, not battle. The biggest clash came at Cartagena de Indias. Heat, storms, and disease tore the British invasion apart. The city survived, and Britain faced humiliation. The war dragged on, with little gained on either side. Eventually, it blended into larger European conflicts, and the man whose ear started it vanished from the headlines. A body part became a story, and a story became a war. It wasn't fought for survival. It was fought for reputation, and thousands paid the price for imperial ego. A forgotten war, born from a single symbol, and a story history chose to minimize. Wars aren't just erased from maps. They're erased from memory. Pieces of history quietly removed from the story we're taught. Battles that challenged empires, left out of the narrative. Lives lost, sacrifices buried beneath silence. So we ask the real question, who controls history and why? Because what we remember shapes what we believe, and what gets erased shapes what we never question. But today, those forgotten stories are back in the light. This was only the first 15 wars. The next 15 continue in part 2. If you're rockin' with this series, hit like and subscribe to support the channel. Drop a comment with the war you want a full deep dive video on. I read everyone. And get ready. Part 2 drops next. Don't miss it, because memory is power, and we're taking these stories back.